Party peoples of the interwebs, something of an emergency broadcast, or at the very least, an update, an immediate update on the Universal Ostrich Farm coming out of Edgewood, British Columbia. Without going into the details of the story, if you're not aware of what's going on, the 65,000 foot overview, because I'm not even going for a 30,000 foot overview. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency, that administrative body that ordered the culling of 400 ostriches because they were infected allegedly with H5N1 back in December of 2024. They said we have to kill even the ostriches that survived and that have now been healthy for damn near 10 months. The kill order that the CFIA issued, which was ratified by the Federal Court of Appeal in May, contested, ratified by the appellate court in August, 10 months after they were infected, give or take. They have moved in as of Sunday of this week. We are September 24th, as at the time of shooting this vlog. They moved in to kill the ostriches. They went up to Edgewood, British Columbia, to Universal Ostrich Farms, to kill these 398 remaining healthy, big, beautiful birds, some of whom are 35 years old, been in the family for 35 years, despite the fact that they've been healthy and out and about for 10 months now. It's led to something of a... Remember that episode of The Simpsons when Bart pretended that he was Jesse that fell down the well? It was playing off a real life event, and the whole town mobilized, and it spiraled into this event. We're at that point of the movie now, where for the last 6 months, and I've been following this story for about 6 months, it was all hypothetical. You had your interim stays, appellate level review, yada, yada, yada. Then it came time for the CFIA, those Soviet tyrannical bastards, to come to the farm and say, you've exhausted your legal remedies and we're going to kill these ostriches, whether or not there is a legitimate scientific basis to do so. They show up at Edgewood. Protesters show up. Some media outlets show up, others don't. Well, I finally got CBC News to at least be interested in this, and not I, but they finally showed some interest. Drea Humphreys of Rebel News has been doing award-worthy journalism covering this from day one. There was something of a standoff at the farm. CFIA comes in with their armed jackboots, the RCMP, who are there with their guns, with their bulletproof vests, saying, we don't want to be here, we're just following orders, like all Gestapo agents were following orders back in the day, and they're trying to facilitate the kill for the CFIA, or facilitate the CFIA's access to the farm to kill these animals. The other day, they were bringing in bales of hay. And why would they be bringing in bales of hay, you would ask? They were bringing in bales of hay to set up barriers so they could kettle the ostriches in to kill them when the time came to kill them. Here's what it looked like when they're setting up the bales of hay. Kill them, I presume, either to get on top of the bales of hay to shoot, or otherwise just corner these animals so they could be slaughtered however the CFIA determined it was going to do it. Now, what's interesting, by the way, and noteworthy, is that when community comes together, and community has come together from far and near, the RCMP were staying at the Holiday Inn in Vernon, British Columbia. The Holiday Inn said, you're no longer welcome here, RCMP, get out. They had, I think, Sunbelt Rentals who were renting the heavy machinery when this went viral, when the public started saying, what the heck is going on here? This tyrannical government coming in to kill these big, beautiful, healthy birds for no better reason than they issued the order a year ago, canceled their contracts. Of course, the government has endless resources because they're dipping into your back pockets to take your money out, to squander on this venture, to kill the animals of the people who pay the taxes to the government in the first place. Talk about financing your own terror. And at this point, I refer to the Canadian government as a terrorist organization because they literally are a terrorist organization. It's not because the government has a monopoly on violence that they are not the terror and the terrorists. Using violence, fear, and intimidation to coerce a political agenda on a population is the definition of terrorism. So they come in with these bales of hay to try to cordon them off. This was yesterday. This was after the interim stay had been lifted or expired and no interim stay was in order, which is why it led to something of a standoff. They came in with the bales of hay, and we went to bed last night thinking apparently they would not be allowed to kill the ostriches between 9 o'clock at night and 6 in the morning because that's the terms of the warrant. We wake up this morning to a fire with the bales of hay. And we don't know if it is
there's
friendly fire or not.
It looks like, and a lot of smoke billowing out, maybe possible multiple locations at the Universal Ostrich Farm.
So the bales of hay that were set up, that's from the Right Blend on Twitter. Check them out as well. The bales of hay that they set up catch fire. Now, it's cold, it's humid. It's not exactly the type of circumstances under which bales of hay spontaneously combust. Who knows if they set them up on some cables, whatever. By and large, it looks like it's probably arson. The only question is it friendly arson or malicious arson? Did someone think they would be doing a favor to the farm to set these bales of hay on fire and try to frustrate the CFIA's ability to slaughter these birds? Or is it criminal arsonists who say, I don't know, working with or in tandem with the CFIA, say, well, if they die from smoke inhalation or if there's a horrible fire like in Waco and they get burned alive, well, you don't have to go in and kill them. Oh, we never did it. It was just an accident as we were trying to execute this slaughter. So that's what happened this morning. Apparently it got put out by the local fire department. Whether or not people can make complaints to British Columbia Workplace Regulatory Authority, who knows? I've seen some people float that idea. The fire gets put out, and it looks like they're back on for the kill until the biggest news of the day, which is Umar Sheikh, the lawyer for Universal Ostrich Farm, got a court order providing an interim stay. Before we get to that, however, earlier on in the day, and I'm not sure which one came first, one of the tribes from British Columbia came in and told the RCMP, look at their big, beautiful bulletproof vests, carrying their guns. They don't want to be there, but they're there nonetheless. They don't want to be doing what they're doing. They're just following orders, but they're just going to facilitate the Canadian Food Inspection Agency's slaughter of these ostriches. And by the way, appreciate the rationale for the slaughter. It's that these birds, which are non-migratory birds, not open to the public, might come in contact with migratory birds and might, even though they're not sick or infected, might have some lingering traces that might infect the migratory birds, which would then carry it and infect something else. So by virtue of them being outdoor animals, they get to get slaughtered. Understand where that goes, people, because it doesn't stop at ostriches. It will go to cattle. It will go to goats. It'll go to farm animals. It'll go to your cat and your dog if they come in contact, allegedly, with a potentially infected bird. And even if they're not sick or they've recovered, they'll get to kill your dog or your cat indefinitely. That is what the power that the government is trying to grab here would allow them to do in the future. So think it's just about ostriches. It's not. It's about tyranny. It's about lack of science. It's about arbitrary, capricious application of their own decisions, even though there's no need to do it, and expanding it to any and all livestock and animals that you might have that live outdoors. But the Native Reserve came in, I don't know which one it was, and said, no, this is unceded territory. Hey, you liberals, you like to come in and thank the natives, declare that you're on unceded territory of whatever tribe and pay your lip service while you actually exploit those very same lands and treat the native population of Canada like cattle sometimes, and I dare say maybe even worse than cattle. You have your residential schools, you have all these, you don't have clean drinking water on reserves, but we like to thank you for your unceded land and recognize the tribe of whatever. Well, they come in and say, it's unceded land. Get out and you can't touch the ostriches. Listen to this.
Okay, and not going to be out there suffering. So I'd like to try and...
This is Katie, the daughter of the owner.
Just said that this is unceded territory and these birds are not to be touched. Wow.
Gotta love it. This is from Daisy Media on Twitter. Check him out.
Share that around, folks. Just post that an Indian band has declared this unceded territory and the birds are not to be touched. Spread the word. Like Katie just said, they keep waiting. They keep looking for little miracles.
This is a little miracle.
That's not just a miracle. That's Canadian people, First Nations, stepping up to do what our government wouldn't do.
And it's not just a joke. To the extent that natives have their reservations where federal jurisdiction does not apply, it's an interesting tactic to take. We'll see where it goes. I needled the premier of Manitoba, Wab Canoe, who's a native man himself. I was like, Wab, I know it's a federal issue. I know it's not your province, but are you going to stand with your native brothers, or are you going to lick the government boot? We'll see. Thus far, he's been as quiet as Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. So the natives are trying to take an interesting angle to say this is now unceded territory, native reservations. You can't operate on it. Get the heck out. We'll see where that goes. But at least for the time being, and this is the biggest news of the day, Umar Sharif, the counsel for Universal Ostrich Farms, got a interim stay. And just to read what it says, I love it. Ordonnance requête. That's the order on the motion. Universal Ostrich Farms versus the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. Upon application of the applicant for an order staying the execution and enforcement of the CFIA's December 31st, 2024 notice to dispose, and any steps under CFIA's stamping out policy. Wait until you get to some expert talking about the stamping out policy and what it entails. Under the application for leave to appeal, until the application for leave to appeal is dismissed, or if the leave is granted until the appeal is disposed of. They're asking to appeal to the Supreme Court until that request is either dismissed or granted and disposed of. They've got to stay. It is hereby ordered that the motion for a stay of proceedings is referred to the court under rule whatever, yada, 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 and the leave to appeal will be dealt with on an expedited basis. An interim stay of the enforcement of the notice of disposal dated December 31, 2024 is granted pending the decision on this motion and the application for leave to appeal. And that basically means that until the court says, no, we're not taking it, or yes, we're taking it, this stays in effect and prevents the killing. The schedule for serving and filing the material in the above file is set for October 3rd and a little bit after that. So there has been a temporary reprieve of the slaughter of these animals. The CFIA, they are just hell-bent on killing them. Can they wait until the Supreme Court deals with this? No, they got to kill them now. Why now? Well, it's been 10 months. Now, we need to kill something. We need to destroy something beautiful is basically what the government is saying. Can't wait until the Supreme Court adjudicates on this, because we've already raided for the federal court at the lower level, the federal court at the appellate level. We can't wait anymore. We got an urge to kill, and you're going to deny this to us? Look, but they get their experts. When I said the CBC finally got around to covering this, and I won't even complain, because I don't even care that the Communist Broadcasting Corporation, the propagandist arm of the government, because you got your boot jack or jackboot armed portion of it, the Gestapo, that's the RCMP right now. You've got your propagandist arm of the government, that's the state-funded Crown Corporation CBC, all working together to allow the CFIA to kill your animals. That's literally called fascism, people. Listen, I don't even care that they're covering it, because just by virtue of covering it, even if it's with this slanted garbage, it's better than nothing. This is coming from the Remanded. Also, give them a follow on Twitter. This is Angela Rasmussen, a so-called expert. I'm just going to pause it after she says something amazingly stupid, amazingly contradictory to her own theories here, to illustrate just how insane this is. She works for the University of Saskatchewan, virologist. She's independent. I'd love to see who butters her bread. I want to know where she gets her financing from. Set that aside. I'd love to know where the University of Saskatchewan gets its funding from. Bet it gets a lot of it from the government. Listen to what she has to say, and I'm going to pause it just to highlight the abject insanity of this.
The avian flu outbreaks with what's called the stamping out policy, or mandatory depopulation of
mandatory depopulation. The Nazis always had such nice terms for their cruelty. It wasn't murdering the handicapped; it was mercy killings. This is just mandatory depopulation. That's called killing. Why? Let's hear why the need to kill.
flocks that have been infected. So this is really both scientifically and legally, I think, the right thing to do to reduce the risk as much as we can.
To reduce the risk as much as we can, you can kill every living bird on the planet. You'll never get the avian flu if you kill every living bird. But listen to this. Serenity now.
Yeah, you're a leading expert in this field. You have no political agenda when it comes to analyzing science. So I want to put to you something we heard from the spokesperson for the farm, saying that these birds have been healthy for more than 200 days, that they're probably building immunity to avian flu, and therefore not only should they not be culled, but we should actually be preserving these ostriches. When you hear that, what's your reaction?
Well, my reaction to that is that it's not really accurate. So in ostriches, disease severity is based on how old the birds are, and these are all older birds. Older birds tend to not get very sick when they are infected with avian flu, at least in the few experiments that have been done with this. And
pause it. at least in the few experiments that have been done on this. So there haven't been very many experiments done on this. So instead of keeping them and giving them to RFK Jr. as he requested and saying no and basically giving a middle finger to the Trump administration, there's only been a few experiments. We don't really know very much about it. So let's kill them? Like I've been saying this for a while. Experts are people who know more and more about less and less. It doesn't mean that they have basic common sense, basic logic. We've done very few experiments on these things. We don't really know. So let's kill them.
On our observations at different ostrich outbreaks. So you can't really tell if the ostriches are sick just by looking at them. You also can't make the assumption that they're going to develop protective immunity against a reinfection because often these older ostriches that don't get very sick don't develop antibodies.
So you got to kill them so they don't get reinfected. Sit down and try to understand that. Well, we don't know if they've developed antibodies, so they might get reinfected. So let's kill them so they don't risk getting reinfected. And by the way, when she says you can't really tell if they're sick by looking at them, you want to know another kicker that I don't know if she's aware of? The ostrich farm is precluded by court order or by law for testing the birds now. They are subject to a fine if they go and test these birds to even see if they're even lingering traces of H5N1. So you can't tell if they're sick by looking at them, but the farm is not allowed to test them. CFIA has not retested any of them after their initial 2 tests in December 2024. And they might get reinfected, so we'd better kill them now.
Against the virus. So we actually don't really know if these birds do have protective immunity, if they had been infected before. We just have to assume that they could have been infected and they may still be infected.
All right. Well, with all the claims that are...
If they had been infected before, we just have to assume that they could have been infected and they may still be infected.
We don't know if they have immunity. And so instead of testing on these birds to see if they have immunity, depending on whether or not they do have immunity, how they got that immunity, the extent of that immunity, whether or not you can decipher things from that immunity, derive products from that immunity. The only thing that can make sense that would explain how the Conservative Party of Canada has been dead silent on this. I say it's jokingly, like you can hear a mouse fart more than you can hear any conservative saying anything about this. The only thing that would make sense about this is that they are bought and paid for by Big Pharma, and that these birds do in fact have some scientific value to them that might allow for treating or deriving products that would prevent the spread or infection of H5N1, and it wouldn't be to the pharma's best interest to allow this research to go on. That's the only thing that can explain it. The liberals not saying anything, of course they're not going to say anything. They're the ones doing it. That the conservatives have said boo. That Pierre Poilievre has said nothing about this, and he should be damned ashamed of himself. He is going to cost himself the leadership of the Conservative Party. He doesn't deserve to be leader of the Conservative Party. That he said nothing is only an indication, as far as I'm concerned, that there is corruption afoot, and that the Conservatives are as much in bed with Big Pharma as the Liberals, that they're as much in bed with the globalist agenda as the Liberals, such that they don't want to say a damn thing about it. The bottom line, and put this on blast, Trump should take this as a personal insult to his authority as president, to his generosity as president of the most powerful nation on earth. When RFK Jr. said not once but twice, we will take those birds because they have scientific value. And Canada thumbs their nose, 2 middle fingers, and a double slap to the Trump administration. No, thank you. We'd rather kill them. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Canada has become a national security threat to these United States of America, whether it's the fentanyl trade, whether it's terrorists crossing over the border into the States, because Canada is giving visas willy-nilly to people from all over the world who are defaulting on their visas. Canada has become a national security threat to these United States of America. And if they go ahead and kill these ostriches, which have scientific value, not just to Canada, not just to America, but to the world, it's an insult to the Trump administration, and it puts Americans at risk, and Trump should come in and say, you kill those birds, I'm going to slap retaliatory tariffs on your country like you've never seen. Give me the damn birds. We'll pay you for the birds. That's what's going on now. An interim stay until the Supreme Court decides whether or not they take this. If they take it, it'll extend, and if they don't, then we're going to be at the doomsday scenario sooner than later. In the interim, it's not time to take a victory lap at all. It's time to put more pressure on, shame these politicians. I've said this before. Pierre Poilievre is a fair weather, no principle, goes with the political tide politician. He's got no core values. He supports things when they're popular and he ignores them when they're not. Make him pay attention to this by making him realize this is important. You cannot sit there and tweet about the gun confiscation ban that's going up in Canada as an illustration of a tyrannical government gone out of control and simultaneously ignore a tyrannical government that is out of control right now and that is going to kill the animals on a farm in a demographic that is consistently and traditionally the most conservative in Canada. This is an insult to his constituency. It's an insult to his base. And it's disrespect to the fact that the only reason that guy is even the leader of the Conservative Party right now, after having lost the election, after having lost his own seat, is because someone was gracious enough to give them their seat in a conservative riding. I think it's in Alberta. And he's sitting there and pissing on the people who he's supposed to represent by ignoring this critical issue. That is the vlog. Viva Fry. If you're still watching and you haven't liked, shared, subscribed, turned on notifications, you never will, so do it anyhow. If you're still there, do it. You can go to vivabarneslaw.locals.com. If you want to support the work that I do, you can go to Rumble, Viva Fry, and Twitter, the Viva Fry. Stay on the story, put it on blast, keep it going, and may we save these ostriches and let the tyrannical government of Canada know the people have had enough of this tyranny. Godspeed. God bless.